Welcome to Why Write. Today we're going to review MLA, which is Modern Language Association. As we review MLA, we're going to understand what it is. We're going to look at how it improves your credibility as a writer. We're going to identify ways to cite. We're going to recognize AI's presence, understand evaluating sources, and acknowledge plagiarism and how to avoid it. So what is MLA? MLA is Modern Language Association. It is a standard style guide that we use in humanities for formatting academic papers. Why is it important for us to cite? It's important for us to cite so that we can support our arguments. It also helps to improve our ethos, which is our credibility. It helps the reader to fact check. And it's important for you to give credit where credit is due. And then it is very important that you cite so that you can avoid plagiarism. And what is plagiarism? Plagiarism is basically committing literary theft. It is presenting another person's ideas, information, expressions, or entire work as your own. I explain to students that if you plagiarize on an academic level, that can cause you to get an F or fail a course, or to be expelled from school. If you carry this habit of plagiarizing over in your professional life, it can cause you to get fired or get sued, or both. So it is important to create a habit of citing properly, giving credit where credit is due, so that you can avoid these unintentional consequences, if you will, if you do not if you do not cite properly. So how can you avoid plagiarizing? I would first say that one way that you can avoid plagiarizing is that when you're given a topic in college, when you're given a topic to write on, or you find a topic, try to just free write and freestyle any information that you have on that topic. Now, if it is a research topic, something that's a little bit more controversial that you don't have knowledge on, that's understandable. It's understandable that you're going to have to do some basic research at first. But even just your thoughts, your opinions, what you've heard, it's helpful if you can just free write that information first before you start gathering ideas, because that will help to kind of minimize the I would say the issue of gathering information that may cause you to, again, accidentally or unintentionally plagiarize. So that's advice I give students. Just start writing on a particular topic, whatever you know, so that you can try to minimize getting ideas from other places first. However, if you have to look up the information, make sure you do some sort of bibliographies, right? So you want to make sure that you do an annotated bibliography where you're gathering the source, creating a summary, and also writing the source information down. You want to evaluate sources as well to make sure that they're credible. And then you want to create your documentation, which would be your works cited page. But ways to avoid is to document your source, evaluate your sources, and create documentation. But one major way that's not listed here is when you have a topic, is just to free write any information that you have on that topic first before you go gathering sources outside of your opinion on that topic. All right, so documenting sources. So the way that you would document sources is through quotations, taking things verbatim. If you take something verbatim, you have to make sure that you place quotation marks around it and that you list the author's name and the title where you got the information from. Summaries and paraphrases are very similar. You will not use quotation marks because you're not taking anything verbatim. However, if you do include something verbatim within a summary or a paraphrase, you must also include those quotation marks. Remember, summaries and paraphrases, you are placing source information in your own words, but you are still citing because it did not come from you. Originally, it came from a source, so you will still have to cite. All right, then you want to evaluate your sources. So I do have a video on the CRAP test on my channel. So for more information about how to use the CRAP test, I would suggest looking at that video. But a brief way to start evaluating your sources is to look at who the author of the source is, what the title of the source is, how was the source published, where did you get the source, where did it come from, and when was the source published. Creating documentation. So there are two ways that you create documentation within MLA. You'll create it with in-text citation and with the works cited page. So often I notice students forget to include in-text citation. This is one of the major ways that you're supposed to create documentation, because how does your reader know that you've included source information if you do not make sure you're citing within the text? If you do not cite within the text, even when you list all of your works cited entries, it's still difficult for your reader to find out which source belongs where. So it's important for you to have in-text citation that carries over to the works cited page for the works cited entry. Right? So what about generative AI? So we all know that generative AI is out here and it can almost create papers for you. However, I would be careful with that. I would caution you, because as someone who has used generative AI just as for research purposes, right? I can tell you that it is not very accurate all the time. So I tell students, when you look at generative AI, you can use it for brainstorming and outlining, of course, but you still need to give credit to the website that you got it from. If you do decide to use portions of like paragraphs, you feel like you've typed some stuff in and generative AI giving you some great ideas. If you decide to use portions of that, this is considered word for word verbatim. You want to put quotation marks around it, and you also want to cite this properly, that it came from ChatGPT, for example. So just to be on the safe side, make sure you're also citing where you've gotten some assistance, some AI assistance, I would say that. But if you notice, because this is a screenshot of ChatGPT, it has here that where you can brainstorm. And I suggest that you can brainstorm here. Put your topic in, let's see what generative AI has on that particular topic. But again, I will caution you, because it can be very repetitive. It can say it's not very intuitive, so it's not a human being, right? So generative AI will repeat things over and over again and say them a little different. And then sometimes it will, you may find some discrepancies in the information that it gives. Even if you do a basic Google search, I actually did a basic Google search over think it was pre-writing, and it listed the writing process. It listed the steps to the writing process, and it mixed up the editing and proofreading part. So since I have the knowledge on this, I was able to catch it. So again, it is not intuitive. There are discrepancies. So when you're using generative AI, be cautious, because again, it's not you. It doesn't have that human intelligence, the human ability to go in and do those checks and balances. So I would just recommend possibly just using it for brainstorming and outlining purposes only. If you use it for anything beyond that, you must cite, as I mentioned before. All right, and so for additional information on MLA, you can visit the MLA handbook. You can visit Purdue on OWL online, and you can visit Grammarly. These websites will give you sample MLA papers, also walk you through detailed information on how to complete in-text citing and works cited pages. And thank you so much for visiting my channel. I hope that this video was helpful as it relates to MLA.